We're about to begin the services for Mrs. Miriam Chaplik. We want to welcome all of you here at the chapel as well as everyone who's viewing online. For those of you present at the chapel, just a gentle reminder, if you have a cell phone with you, please place it in the silent mode or turn it off completely. That would be appreciated. The interment will take place at West Lawn Cemetery in Norridge immediately following the service today. For those of you joining in the procession, we will make sure that your car has a magnetic flag on the top and also an orange safety sticker for the inside portion of your windshield. And please keep in mind, use your flashers and your bright headlights at all times during the procession. The Shiva will be observed at the Harris residence at 987 Brittany Road in Highland Park, following the interment today until 8 p.m., and then Thursday and Saturday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And a special note about parking. Parking is available at the Bobolink Country Club, but please park only in the spaces that are adjacent to and facing Crofton Avenue. That's the street that the club entrance is located on. All this information is listed in the folder that you received, and if you're online, all this information is on our website. The following gentlemen and ladies have been selected to serve as pallbearers this morning. At the conclusion of the service, I'll ask the following people to step forward: Alan Harris, Richard Aleskow, Eddie Linn, Ellen Lebedow, Somakian, Fran Lebedow Shiner, Sherry Lebedow Harkavy, and Steve Thompson. The services this morning will be conducted by Rabbi Michael Siegel of Anshemet Synagogue in Chicago and Hazan Alberto Mizrachi and Rabbi Debbie Nesselson. I'll ask everyone to please rise as the family enters the chapel.
Friends, you may be seated. In times of joy and in times of sadness, the Jewish people has looked to the book of Psalms for comfort and inspiration. And so we do this day as we remember Miriam Chaplik.
שיר למעלות, אשא עיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמים וארץ. אל ייתן למוט רגליך, אל ינום שומרך. הנה לא ינום ולא יישן, שומר ישראל. אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה ויורח בלילה. אדוני ישמרך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך, me'ata ve'yad olam.
I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? The source of my help is the Lord, creator of heaven and earth. God will not let you falter. Your guardian does not slumber. Surely the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is at your right hand to protect you. The Lord, your keeper, gives shelter. The sun will not smite you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all harm. The Lord will preserve your soul. God will guard your going and coming from this time forth and forevermore. The 23rd Psalm.
Mizmor David, Adonai rawi lo exar, binot deshe, yar bitzeni, al memenuchot yenaleni. Nafshi yeshovev, nafshi yeshovev, yanecheni v'magle tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elech begeit al mavet, lo irara, ki ata imadi, shiftecha umishantecha, eyema Yenachamuni. Taroch lefonai shulchan neged tzoreroi, dishaneto vashemen roshi, kosirevaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayoy, v'shabati mevet Adonai leorech Yomim.
Inside your booklets, you'll find the 23rd Psalm in English. I'll invite you to join me as we read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Today we gather to perform the mitzvah commandment of Livia. That is, to escort a person, to walk with them on the day of their death and burial. And this we do with Miriam. And as we walk with her today, we walk with Miriam's memory. And I'm confident that there is not a person in this room who hasn't been touched in some way by the love, the kindness, the joie de vivre of Miriam Chaplik. When you met her, you would not forget her. Such was the woman. So all of us gather today as mourners. The heaviest burden falls upon her family, a family that she loved and cherished. So on this day, we remember Rubin, a beloved husband. We extend our deepest sympathies and prayers for comfort to Elynne and to her husband Richard, to Linda and her husband Alan, and to Susan. And on this day, we remember Ivy, a beloved daughter, taken too soon. We think of beloved brother Aaron and his wife Madeleine on this day, and we pray for your comfort. And we think of the late Shirley, a beloved sister, and her husband Samuel. We remember beloved parents, Fannie and Isidor. We think of David, a man who Miriam loved and married and enjoyed the later years of her life with. And with David, Miriam gained an additional family whom she loved. And so to her stepchildren, to Leah and her husband Jeff, to Ellen and her husband Mark, to Rita and her husband Bill, to Anne, and to the grandchildren who were like her own, Greg and his wife Jessica, Jenna, Michelle and her husband Jeff, John and his wife Courtney and Jake, and the great-grandchildren as well, Lincoln and Ethan, Leah, Annabel and Miles, and Leo. And we extend our sympathies to nieces and nephews and grandnieces and nephews. She was a woman adored. And as part of this family unit, there are people who extended themselves in remarkable ways. We think of Dr. Terrence Sullivan, to Liz Viray, and the remarkable caregivers that Miriam was blessed with. We remember them all, and we are filled with gratitude for all that you have done. In our tradition, we tear something at the time of death. In a ceremony we call kriya, tearing. And even as Miriam was approaching the century mark, we feel as though something has been literally torn away from us. So we tear. But at the same time, our tradition wisely tells us to say a blessing. There should never be a moment when we are not conscious of the blessing that Miriam's life represents today, and will continue to represent in memory. So I'm going to ask the mourners to please rise. Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Eloheinu melech haolam. Dayan. Dayan. Ha'emet. Ha'emet. Praise for you. Praise for you. Lord our God. Lord our God. Ruler of the universe. Ruler of the universe. The righteous judge. The righteous judge. In the book of Job, we are told the story of a person who suffered in life. And there were those who came to Job and said, Job, life is not worth living. Life is darkness without light. And Job responded with words that I am quite sure Miriam would appreciate. And I'm going to ask that you repeat them after me. Adonai Natan, V'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem, Adonai Mivarach. God has given, God has taken away. Praise be the name of the Lord. When Moses was reaching the end of his remarkable life, he instructed the children of Israel as to how to go on after he would be gone. And in many ways, that is the book of Deuteronomy, a guidebook to go forward. In his last oration, Moses turns to the children of Israel and says to them, when you feel as though you can't take another step, when you feel as though you cannot go forward, uvacharta b'chaim, then you will choose life. You will choose life. Moses was not simply offering a motto or a banner statement. He was offering a life lesson. From Moses' perspective, life is more than what you are given at birth. Life is a choice as to how to live each and every day. When we have moments of celebration, do we engage them with gusto and joy? When we're faced with tragedy and life's challenges, do we make the seemingly impossible choice to go forward, or do we give up? Uvacharta b'chaim, Moses said, and you will choose life. Today, we gather to remember a woman, to celebrate a woman who lived the words of Moses. Miriam Chaplik chose life each and every day. 98 and a half years. She chose life even when tragedy struck and then struck again. She died on her half birthday, which is telling for a woman who willed herself to believe that the cup was always half full. She exuded a rare love of life and led with a smile that could literally light up a room. Elynne wrote this about her mother in her book, My Gift of Now. My mother has faced the devastation of her life with an uncanny grace and strength. There is no bitterness in her. She does not curse fate. She focuses on the blessings she has in life, not the deficits. A great part of this ability to survive unimaginable agony and loss is her faith and her belief in family. I experienced that in our synagogue, which she loved. When we would greet each other on the high holidays, she exuded a love of the shul, the love of the artistry of Chazan Mizrahi. And I experienced it in the past weeks as Miriam was succumbing to illness and age. I would come to her bedside, and when she recognized me, she would look up and smile and say, "Oh, Rabbi." Her exuberance, her grace, her love of people were evident in abundance. Miriam Chaplik is a woman who fulfilled Moses' dictum, Uvacharta b'chaim, and you will choose life. In our tradition, we have a saying, Kashem kain hi. As a person's name is, so are they. Our names speak to our essence as people. Miriam carried the name of Moses' sister. Miriam was the only woman in the Torah to be referred to as a Neviah, as a prophetess. And you will recall that after the sea split and the children of Israel walked through in safety, they sang a song of praise. It was Miriam who danced with the tambourine. It was Miriam who led the people in song. Miriam of old was a woman who lived life with gusto, just as our Miriam did. Miriam Chaplik lived up to her name. And our rabbis teach us that wherever Miriam went, there was a miraculous well of water that followed her. So wherever she was, there was a well of water that the people were sustained by, a well that nourished them. And when Miriam died, that well of water appeared to dry up as well. And the people, according to the rabbis, despaired because their well was gone along with their beloved Miriam. What they had to learn was that the well actually never disappeared. The well had been planted inside of them. More, Miriam had given the people the tools to dig new wells, to find alternative forms of sustenance. Those wells in the past, those wells to be dug in the future, were Miriam's gift to her people just as they were Miriam Chaplik's gifts to her children and to her family. Miriam had a gift for nourishing people with love, care, and spirit. This is especially true for her children. Miriam was an exceptional mother, and it should be said that she raised exceptional daughters, and Linda, Elynne, and Susan. These women have taken on the very best attributes of their mother. And they cared for her in extraordinary ways, especially Susan, whose devotion to her mother is unmatched. But more, these three daughters fulfilled the mitzvah of kibud aim. They honored their mother each and every day. And the mitzvah of kibud av va'em, of honoring your father and mother, is understood by our rabbis to be the most difficult mitzvah to keep, because there's always more that you can do for a parent. I can say on this day with a strong degree of surety that Linda, Elynne, and Susie fulfilled that commandment in extraordinary ways. This service in Miriam's honor is an example of kibud aim, the honor of a mother. It is a testimony that these daughters have drunk deeply from the well of Miriam Chaplik, learned the lessons of her life, and will continue creating new wells, just as she did in her life. I'm going to call now on Dr. Edward Linn, a beloved nephew, to read Susan's remarks.
Thank you, Rabbi. When Susan contacted me early today and asked me if I could pinch hit for her, I paused and realized that it just seems kind of ironic but fitting, because the last time I stood here was honoring my mother, who was so close to my aunt that I was blessed virtually to have two mothers, because that's my relationship with my aunt. And so I'm hoping I do justice for Susan's beautiful message. I also wore royal purple because she is the closest to a regal queen that I've ever known. This is a message from Susie, my dearest treasure, always and forever. There are many types of gifts in the world. There are many types of loves in this world. There are many types of human beings in this world and on this planet, in this universe, but there is only one Miriam Lebedow Chaplik, and there will never be another. My sisters and I have been so blessed. Each and every one of you have had the opportunity of being touched by her grace, her love, her beauty, and her sensitivity, and her kindness, so unique, truly one of a kind. Her magnificent heart and soul, anyone she has touched is so blessed. My mom is the most unselfish human being on this universe. It's always about others and solving life's challenges in her beautiful, loving way. Mom is so brilliant, so gifted. My mom was truly influenced each and every one of us. My sisters and I have been so blessed. I have been beyond fortunate and honored for having this woman as my dearest mother, mentor, best friend, role model, teacher, truly an inspiration, always, and yes, recently, my dearest roommate once again. Our relationship has always had such beauty and depth my entire life, as my sisters as well. But it has been my gift and blessing for assisting her in every possible way to bring joy into her life, to make her feel safe and secure, and always through good times and through most difficult, challenging times as well. Having had this opportunity, I know will change me. It's just so raw and painful now to not have my mother by my side. My heart is broken. It's shattered. Yes, you see, Mom assisted me as well in every possible way. She protected me as well. My gift from my mother, always and forever. My mom always said she wasn't ready for the next chapter. We all know how Mom loved life and living, but Mom also reminded me to remember that she will be in my father's arms dancing again and being held with Ivy and her beautiful parents. What a beautiful reunion, Mother dear. Pardon me. One of the genetic issues that Perchikoff descendants deal with is lack of control of emotions, so forgive me. My mom's lessons in life will enhance all of us. I know my mother will continue to guide me and always on my shoulder and forever in my heart. I don't know how to live without you. How can I ever go hotel hopping during the holidays again? Picnics in Lincoln Park, dinner at the lakefront with the top down in my convertible, random ice cream trips, visits through Lincolnwood, always passing 6557 St. Louis, Millennium Park visits and seeing the beautiful tulips on Michigan Avenue, going to restaurants and getting our favorite tables during COVID, concerts at Ravinia, backyard hopping, movies that have been private showings in theaters for us, finding rooftop restaurants, and where we ever went, I felt like I was with royalty being with you. You're magic with people, with the entire world. People fall in love with you, and you love the world. It's ironic that I miss COVID days. It was during that time that we explored everything together, which we always did, even pre-COVID, my travel pal as well. Dearest Mom, I will look for you in my dreams. You are the love of my life, my everything. You are my heart, my soul, my being. Mom, thank you for making me your daughter, bringing me into this world and giving me my beautiful life. Love to Daddy, Ivy, and the entire family. You are my everything. I've always said to you, Mom, I'm the luckiest girl in the world and the entire universe. Your angel girl, as you used to call me. I must personally thank Liz during this time for being my mother's side and mine, a real angel on earth. And yes, the team leader, Dr. Terrence Sullivan, that you have had been for decades. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. My tomorrows will never be the same. How I love you forever and ever. I don't know how to live without you. Sweet dreams, my love.
Thank you, Edward. It will now be our honor to hear from Elynne.
Going for knee replacement soon so I can be the athlete I never was. I want to say thank you to everyone here today on behalf of my sisters for honoring my mother. As my mom was lying in bed these past few weeks, I would look at her gentle, strong, lovely hands as I held them. As I looked at them, I remembered being 5 years old. My mother and I were sitting in the large school auditorium in Albany Park. Haugen was the school. This was my first day of kindergarten. I held my mother's hand tightly as we sat waiting for my name to be called. My grip melted into her secure hand as though our hands were one. Suddenly, I heard my name called from the podium, and I remember thinking to myself, I have to be able to do this. I have to be able to let go of her hand. The hand that had protected me and walked down the auditorium incline to join my new classmates. Letting go of my mother's hand was the hardest and bravest thing I had ever done in my 5 years of life. And now, at 77, I was sitting at her deathbed and would have to let go one last time. The life force of my mother allowed her to relate to her 4 very different daughters in ways that enhanced and inspired each of us and who we were. Now we each can have a conversation with our mother in our minds, and we know what she would answer. That legacy keeps our hand in hers as we continue to live our lives. Being human is an art. Our beloved mother created human connections that are not only eternal, but are individualized and focused, thereby making them unforgettable to each person whom she touched with her profound grace and wisdom. Of all my mother's exceptional gifts was the gift of empathy. My mother listened, and my mother offered insightful inspiration that often changed one's life. One of my greatest accomplishments was writing the memoirs about my mother that have been published. I titled my main memoir, More Than Life. That is how the 4 of us love her. I will never say loved, because her hand is always in ours, and resulting gratitude we feel is a gift of now, and now it is Ivy's turn. Our lives were filled with beauty and unthinkable tragedies. The memories we made are a lifetime unto themselves, and the heart and core of the light that filled life's foundation was our mother. Mom always wanted a son. She had a baby brother whom you will hear from, whom she adored. And along with daughters, and she loved having her daughters, she wanted a son. So that never came to pass literally, but she had two devoted sons-in-law, my husband Richard, my brother-in-law Alan. They adored her and considered her a second mother and a cherished friend. And she adored them. The impossibility of not touching our mother's face and feeling her hug again in this life is surreal to me. Mother dearest, I love you more than life. Thank you for every moment we shared. You have made being your eldest daughter unforgettable. And I only hope and pray that I made you as proud of me as I am of you.
Elynne, thank you for your beautiful words. We're going to invite Linda forward to... I'm sorry. It's our privilege to hear from Aaron, a beloved brother. You good? Okay.
I think. Thank you, Rabbi. I'd like to describe incidents in Miriam's life that characterized the special person she was to everyone, particularly to her little brother, which happened to be the moniker she placed on me many, many years ago. Almost 88 years ago, Miriam told a story. I'm sorry? Okay. Miriam told a story that upon receiving a call from our dad portraying that she had a little brother, she ran down a local street in her pajamas to tell her girlfriend Eleanor that she had a brother. The first episode defining our special bond. Now, the next commentary I want to make really relates to the Perchikoff family, and you've got to appreciate, among the things they taught their children was a high degree of fear. And fear was attributable in this instance to dogs. We were taught to cross the street if we encountered one. When Miriam and Ruby were dating, our bond, Miriam and mine, was so close that I was often invited to join them as a 5, or I may have been 10-year-olds at the time. In addition to my presence, Ruby decided to bring as a chaperone for me his enormous German Shepherd. And this dog and I were placed side by side in the back seat. I was petrified. Closed my eyes and didn't move, fearing the animal might destroy me. The dog's placement accomplished something else for Ruby, in particular, as I wasn't an observant on anything that happened in the front seat. Now, if I may, I'm going to paraphrase something from one of Elynne's writings. Most of you may have faced the loss of a parent, a child, or even a sibling. And Few have really faced the traumas associated with Miriam's life. In February of '63, we lost our mother to a plane crash coming out of Miami. And 11 years later, in December of '74, Mir lost Ruby and Ivy, who were killed in another plane crash. Miriam faced these devastations in life with an uncanny grace and strength. A great part of its ability to survive the unimaginable agony in life was her faith and selflessness. Her life is an example of how to live tragedy and how to love through devastation. Another side of my sister, if I may. She was a magnet to everyone she met. There is examples that describe Miriam's response to life. One was she and Ruby played grandparents to my children, my parents having passed away well before they were born. Ellen, my eldest daughter, was a freshman at the University of Michigan, of course. Rosh Hashanah occurred, and Miriam, which she often did, created spice cakes for the Jewish world. Now she faced a real dilemma, getting the spice cake to Ann Arbor so that Ellen could appreciate what she had done for us. So Mir just cut a deal with the Greyhound Bus Company, and they created a delivery of the spice cake to their office in Ann Arbor. In essence, Mir was focused on serving the world in any way she could. My sister was strong, sweet, caring, thoughtful, and full of life and love. These words describe every inch of Miriam. We will miss her every day of our lives.
Call upon Linda to come forward. Aaron, thank you for your beautiful words.
When Elynne, Susan, and I talked about what seemed the impossible task of eulogizing our mother, we all agreed that the part of our eulogies that was most important needed to express how she felt about the people that she cared most for in life. And most of you are sitting here today. And so we were really just going to focus on you. And then it occurred to us that this could best be conveyed by our mother herself. 18 years ago, my sisters and I made an 80th celebration for my mother's birthday. And we preceded a big party with a synagogue service that we created. And it culminated with our mom speaking to the gathered family and friends at the Loop Synagogue that night. In a perfect world, we would have had the ability to video a speech from our mom for this gathering. She would have probably done it, but we could never talk to her about this. We could not talk about it. But we think that her opening remarks to the assembled group for her 80th birthday are very close to what she'd say if she could speak to you today. If you weren't at her birthday party, we apologize. Perhaps you were too young or not yet a part of her life, or some other innocent reason. But please know that you would be part of her focus today. and her love and appreciation for your caring about her by being here today would mean so much. So we're going to have the opportunity to hear from my mother, and please know that she's speaking to you.
I stand here before you, truly humbled by your presence, your enthusiasm, and the excitement that you have brought to my birthday celebration. I am taking this moment to look out into this assemblage and kvel, which means that I am filled with joy and pride. I am overwhelmed by this magnificent experience that I am enjoying this evening. In my wildest imagination, I did not expect to hear what I heard. I have not been privy to anything that was planned here this evening. So I'm really overwhelmed. There is no other word to describe what I'm feeling. Each of you, each and every one of you, have contributed to my first 80 years. Please, dear God, till 120. Please bear with me as I verbally stroll through my first 80 years on earth, with each of you having added your footprints to my life's path. I begin my story with gratitude to God for bringing me into this world and bringing each of you into my life so that you could add beauty to the world of Miriam Lebedow Chaplik Prober. And you have, each and every one of you. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you all so very, very, very much. Before I begin, I must share a few facts that will bring you into the realm of what transpired in the days just before the plans of this party began. Some time ago, I had mentioned to my darling daughters that I felt strongly about this birthday, and under no circumstances did I want any hoopla to take place, because I wanted this 80th birthday to come in quietly. Shh, what's the word? I'm standing here this evening in total disbelief, which is truly my state of mind. However, the facts are simple. My precious daughters do not listen to their mother all the time. They truly are their fathers, of blessed memory's daughters. What they did do is remember their father's words, which Ruby of blessed memory shared with us when he said, "The scale of life is very imbalanced. When you have something to celebrate, take the ball and run with it." And my darlings, you did just that. You hit a home run with bases loaded on your first swing. And I am so proud of you and so grateful to you. I am looking out on the most beautiful, loving faces. On October 16th, 1924, a little baby girl was born to the most loving, devoted, and beautiful parents one could have. Two of the greatest loves of my life, Fannie and Isidor Lebedow of blessed memory, who taught me about life by the example that they lived. At home, was big sister Shirley, waiting for her baby sister to arrive. From that moment, they shared a room, their lives, and their world. No two sisters could love each other more, and to this day, share an unconditional love relationship that is indescribable. This relationship is one that each treasures above and beyond measure. Her qualities as a human being are indescribable. Gentle, kind, caring, giving. There is only one Shirley. I thank you, dear God. I thank you for my sister Shirley. Shirley and I were blessed with a special gift, our brother Aaron. As you heard, we called him Little Brother, our little brother who became our big brother. He is there for us and for our families, always. His qualities as a human being are unmatched because he is a person who cares, who gives of himself, who is concerned for others. He is a mensch, a man of quality. He is his father's son. He is gentle, kind, loving, and giving. He is his mother's son. And we thank God, Shirley and I, for our brother Aaron. We blessed each other with our beautiful life's partners, Sam and Ruby, of blessed memory, and our beautiful Madeleine. Each brought with them loving families which have added so much joy to our worlds. Our children were and are the crowns on our heads. Our nieces, our nephews, our great-nieces, our great-nephews fill our lives with a love that is boundless. Thank you, dear God. Thank you for my family. My mother was blessed to be one of 5 sisters. My father was blessed with 1 sister. And as a result of these uniquely beautiful women and their mates, I have had a rare experience of a family of loving cousins that are one of a kind. Each of them have added wonderful partners, magnificent children, and a dimension to my life for which I am forever grateful. Thank you, dear God, for my cousins. One of my greatest blessings in life was becoming a part of the Isidor Lebedow Chaplik family. My Ruby and I shared 2 heads and 1 heart. One of the top priorities of our lives was building memories. The first room that we completed in our dream house at 6557 North St. Louis was the sub-basement, so that we could share with our family and friends holidays and happy occasions that blessed our lives. Ruby of blessed memory and I strongly believed that you are what you remember. And we did build memories. Throughout my childhood, to this very day, I have shared my world with my childhood girlfriends. As each of us married, we brought into our circle men who made us feel like the luckiest women in the world. Our memories are those that took us through the ups and the downs of life's experiences, with laughter and with tears. And they have become more precious to me, my darling girlfriends, as every day passes. I thank God for my Humble Park adorables, their mates, and their beautiful children. My Lincolnwood neighbors, my many friends who have shared my life and who have walked with me in the various paths that life has taken me, have become so very, very dear to me. For each of you, I thank God. To my children's childhood friends, you have been such a beautiful addition to my life, and I have been privileged to watch you grow into bright, accomplished, and beautiful human beings. I'm so very proud of each of you, and I thank God for each of you. I remember oh so well when tragedy struck my life. Those of you who knew my Ruby and Ivy of blessed memory reached out to give me the strength to cope with my pain. I have never forgotten your caring, loving response to my tears and broken heart. I have never forgotten because I am forever grateful to God and to you for your love and friendship. During that horrendous period of my life and the lives of my children, I reached out for answers. There were none. No words, no answers. But one rabbi did say to me, "Miriam, dear, when God closes a door, he opens a window." I was not receptive to an open window. It was only through the rare friendship of an old friend, my David, my darling David, who understood my pain as I understood his, that I could find the strength to see the sunlight through the open window. With David's love, patience, and devotion, I was blessed with a world that has been one of my greatest blessings. In this world, I was blessed with 4 more daughters, beautiful daughters, and their mates, which I would have handpicked, and 5 beautiful grandchildren whom I adore. You have enriched my life and added a dimension of joy and happiness that is indescribable. I love you dearly, and I thank God for each and every one of you. To my precious Richard and Alan, my boys, thank you. Thank you for supporting my girls with your enthusiasm, your encouragement, your efforts in making this glorious celebration for me. Thank you for loving my girls and their mother. And I thank God for the blessings of my sons, Richard and Alan. And now to my precious daughters. I knew that you put a lot of effort into it. I understood that, and I admired it, and I marveled at it, and I was so proud of you. And you shared none of this with me, because this was going to be something my girls planned for their mother. But I wasn't prepared for this, so I didn't make enough comments about it in my speech. But you will hear about it for the rest of your life, or for the rest of my life. You are all that I dreamed my daughters could become. You are my strength. You are the beat of my heart, and you are the reason for my living. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your desire to plan this party, for wanting so much to honor your mother, and for your mother to remember a memory that you built for her that I shall never, ever forget. I love you for the wisdom of selecting this house of worship, for me to thank God for my many blessings, for filling this sanctuary with people I love, and permitting me this moment to thank God for each of them and for you, and to pray that we are all blessed with good health, light hearts, and peace in our world for all mankind. Thank you all for permitting me this time and these very special moments to share my world of memories. I do strongly believe that you are what you remember.
were I smart, I would just tell you we should not go further eulogizing my mother, because no one can do it as well as she just did herself. But I'm not that smart, and I'm just bursting with emotion and love and pain. And I have so much to share, so I pray that you'll indulge me. I've tried to cut what I'm saying so it's a reasonable length. I hope you'll just bear with me. During the past several weeks, seeing my beautiful mother become ill, I became frightened and horrified that I would be living the moment that every child dreads. For me, that moment was top of mind since December of 1974, when I lost my father and sister. The helplessness that I felt during that tortuous nightmare, though, was somehow mitigated by the concern that my sisters and I felt for our mother. We worried about her survival and caring for her well-being. It seemed instinctive, and somehow it mitigated our pain and helped us cope with our loss. Of course, she was doing the same for us. She just did not want to add to our pain and loss. So you see, we helped one another. We worried about one another. And my mom's faith and strength got us through that torture. And as the rabbi so eloquently said, she chose life, and she taught us how to choose life. But you see, our mom taught us how to walk as toddlers, and then again, how to walk as mourners. And today, my sisters and I must learn yet to walk again, to laugh again, and to live again. But this time without the woman whose life and love were the air that we breathe and the heartbeat of our hearts. And we just don't know how to do this. I do not know how to start a day without calling my mom, or how to experience joy without sharing it with her. I cannot tackle a problem or cope with a disappointment or make an important decision without guidance from my mom. The fact that we were blessed with her for all these years makes this harder, not easier, and yet we truly know how absolutely blessed we were. I stand before you as a 73-year-old daughter who never cut the apron string. I say this without embarrassment and without apology. I just never wanted to, and why would I? My mom was everything beautiful and wonderful in my life. She was the wisest person I ever knew, and I was in awe of her heart, her mind, and her limitless compassion. And I was lucky enough to marry a man who not only understood this, but shared my feelings. Honestly, ask yourself, how many men say to their wives, not once, but on several occasions, could you just be more like your mother? That's been my life. And of course the answer was, I can try, but you know it'll never happen. So you're probably all sitting here thinking, oh, she's got attachment issues. And I do. And it started very early in life. When my parents would go on vacation, Elynne and Susie and I would stay with her parents, my grandma and grandpa. And my grandmother had a photo of my mother on the wall. And I think I spent probably 2 hours every day standing in front of it and crying, for the entire vacation. I tried to do it in private. I don't know if my grandmother noticed. At the age of 9, I was the first Chaplik daughter to go to overnight camp. It was a 3-week camp at Shai. For 18 of those 21 days, I was incapacitated in my bunk bed. I could not do activities. Mothers were calling to please get that girl home. She's ruining everyone else's time. I just couldn't stop crying. I never left for college without becoming completely hysterical and knowing for sure I have to transfer to a school in Chicago. I just can't do this again. Once I got to school, I was fine, but I never left without a scene. And I'm embarrassed to say that the night before I got married, don't ask, crying is a sweet, gentle description of what went on in our Lincolnwood home, because I was leaving home and moving to another city, and I just didn't think I could do it. I am so in awe of my sister Elynne, who got up here to talk about saying she had to make herself let go and do what she needed to do. It's so typical of us. I couldn't do that. I just think I never let go. Being apart from my mom has been next to impossible for me. And it's not just because I loved her so, but I love being with her. And I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to live without her. And I know that with my blessings of my beloved Allie, my sisters who mean everything in my life to me, my sweet, wonderful brother-in-law, Richard, my most amazing Harris family, my extended family, and wonderful, cherished friends, I know I will try. And try is a key word here, because I want you to know that I tried to describe everything I was feeling about my mom in a eulogy. And I know, I'm smart enough to know that less is more, but I couldn't put it in practice. So I wrote, as my niece told me to do, I journaled when my mom got sick. It just was therapeutic. And then I started thinking I can put this together for a eulogy, and I liked it. It had all these wonderful stories about my mom and so many of her teachings, and some of the stories you all know, and many you don't. And I wrote it, and I sent it to Elynne and Susie, and Elynne called and said, Lynn, it's so beautiful, and it's something we will treasure. You may not use this as a eulogy. But, she said, let's have it printed. So we've printed this. And we want to share it with you. And when you leave the service, they'll be available. There are stories that you will just read. I hope you find them funny, touching. I know you'll find them true. They are my mother, and they are all about you. We also, for the sake of those who aren't here, or if there aren't enough of these, we are creating a website that will be live today, and it will have these materials on it. These are not only stories about her, and I've called it my Too Long for a Eulogy piece, but it's also her teachings and her inspirations and lessons. And I say to you, I hope you read it if you're interested, and I hope you keep some of this close. One of our cousins, who really only gets to see my mom on occasion every year, told me that she journals and that she includes my mom's teachings in her journal so that when she passes it on to her daughters, those lessons will continue living. So they're here for you if you're interested, at least, and they're not all. These are not all of her stories, these are not all of her teachings, but I hope you'll use them. And this sounds like a political plug, but it's www.miriamchaplik.com. And if she were here, she would say she approves this ad. The world has always recognized that my mother was in every way completely extraordinary. While you've expressed sympathy, we've received amazing notes from so many of you. Most of you have expressed your own loss. And I thought that was not one bit surprising. Our mom lived her life giving of herself and trying to improve the lives of others in any way she could, and she did it instinctively and consistently, and there was never anything that was too much to do. whether it was her lifelong commitment to American Art or other charities or civic engagements in Lincolnwood, or just being an ear or a shoulder to cry on for someone, she was there and she gave her heart and soul. And it mattered not at all if you were a member of her family, a close friend, or a mere acquaintance. Her daughters got to live with her love, and we had this daily enrichment of our soul. We were the luckiest people on earth. But her nieces and nephews and cousins and friends have felt that love and compassion as well. One cousin tearfully told me that my mom was her confidant and pillar of strength. She marveled at how much my mother instilled in her a desire and confidence to be her best self. And that was, for me, the essence of my mother. There are several adults who've described to me the maternal glow that they felt whenever in my mom's presence, a warmth and love that fortified them when they faced challenges. Another cousin called her our magical matriarch and said she had the biggest fan club a human not stalked by paparazzi could. I could go on endlessly about her effect on people. The accolades abound. But what's so amazing is that my mom's effect on people occurred by her just being herself. In her presence, you really did feel like the most important person in the world. I'd say that these gifts were just part of her DNA, and I'm sure that's true, but they were also learned from watching her daddy, my grandfather, whom my mom not only adored, but in whom she saw at a very young age the model of humanity. He served as her moral compass, as she has served for her daughters. And there's a little bit more that you can read about my grandfather. He was remarkable. You're all beneficiaries of my mother's goodness and grace in some way. She was a majestic woman whose physical beauty made heads turn and whose compassion and love made hearts soar. She was, as I think my uncle stole from me, not knowing it, a human magnet, or maybe I just stole that from you, but it's written down here. But she truly was. There's a couple, by Too Long for Eulogy has a number of stories. They're just stories that are so typical of my mom. I would like to just give you a couple. My mother was involved in a fraudulent scheme that nearly necessitated a family intervention. She received a phone call congratulating her on winning a $50,000 prize. After a series of calls over a few days, it became clear that in order to redeem the prize, she had to forward $250. I needn't tell you of the panic that my sisters and I felt when we called our mother and she said, I can't talk to you. I'm putting on lipstick, I'm going down in the lobby, I'm going to meet the young caller who's going to give me the $50,000 for my $250. We were freaked out. And she said, don't worry. There's the doorman at 1418 is going to take care of me. I'm not going to be at any risk. So the guy never came. She was basically stood up. But he called her the next day. And contrary to our pleas, she took the call. Her only reprimand to him was, shame on you. Your mother raised you better than this. She would be so disappointed and heartbroken to know that her son was preying on the elderly. He, must have sort of felt squeamish. And the next thing she did was spend the next hour on the phone helping him find out what he really should be doing with his life. And it was like a guidance counselor. Then there was the night that we knew she was out on Michigan Avenue. And, we're girls. We call all the time. And Elynne calls me, where's mommy? I don't know, she's not home. And now it's getting later and later and later. And Susan, where's mommy? I don't know, she's not home. And now, if it had been right after the accident, and she was in Florida, we had the Surfside police out probably 3 nights a week, looking for Mrs. Chaplik because we were always panicked. We were very good friends with the Surfside police. But this night, we didn't know what to do. The Chicago police wasn't going to be that accommodating. All of a sudden, she comes home Where were you? Well, I was at Macy's. You know, she was a big shopper. I'll get to that. She did over 200 Christmas presents every year for Hanukkah and Christmas. But anyway, so she was out and she was standing in line and getting a bunch of gifts wrapped. And there was this very sweet gift wrapper who was going to be off duty very soon. And she felt like this poor girl must be exhausted. It's that time of year. And she said, let me take you to dinner. And the two of them went to dinner. And that wasn't their only dinner. It continued after that. And she had the best time in a new friend. And that's my mother. Elynne, Susie, and I, and Ivy were raised by two amazing parents who were madly in love with one another. Perhaps like you, we knew we won the parent lottery. Their love and their storybook romance filled our home in countless ways, just as did music, laughter, and people. In my mother, my father found his soulmate, his muse, and his trophy wife. They fell instantly in love when they first met in 1944. She was home nursing a very bad cold when her mother received a call from some stranger named Rubin Chaplik, who had her number and would like to meet her, and my grandma said, of course, come over. So when she told my mother that, my mother was irate. I'm not meeting someone, I'm sick. How could you do that without asking me? Sure enough, this man comes over. And my mother, not really anxious for this blind date, describes the fact that when he entered the room, his smile lit the room and lit her heart. And they talked for hours, and they fell in love that night. My mom was only 19. They were engaged 4 months later. She had to write 27 Dear John letters to men in the service, most of whom were out to catch Miriam Lebedow, that beautiful and very socialite type woman. And for those of you who knew my mom, you know that without trying, she didn't do this deliberately. She was an inherent flirt. She never forgot just how much she loved being a woman. I asked her on her 90th birthday if when she looked in the mirror, she saw a 25-year-old with wrinkles or a 90-year-old woman with a history of memories. And interestingly, she answered the former, as she was indeed eternally youthful. My parents married 6 months after meeting, and I was going to tell the story of our family movies with Aaron sitting in the back of their car, so I'll tell you instead another story. As they left their wedding night, this wedding celebration, driving to a hotel, my mother is in my father's convertible, sobbing, uncontrollable sobbing, and my father, completely panicked, said, Mir, I promise you, you won't be sorry, you won't be sorry. And in between her tears, she said, I'm not sorry, it's not you, I'm just so sad to be leaving my baby brother. And that was their relationship. Watching my parents in those movies at their wedding dance is like, it's like a drug for me. I am awash with joy and happiness. There's also a cute story. Those movies have my mom dancing with what was then the CEO, her boss, of a hamburger chain called Wimpy's. The CEO used to chase her around his desk. I used to incredulously ask her, how could you have invited him to your wedding, much less danced with him? She would laugh and she would say, he never caught me. Then she would say, but he did tell me great advice during that dance. He said, never go to bed angry and never go to bed without kissing each other goodnight. And so my parents lived by that rule. My mother was 20 years old when Elynne was born, and then came me, Susie, and our greatest family gift, Ivy. It's fair to say that there was no role that meant more to her than that of mother. She was 110% for each of her daughters, and it made me realize that a mother's love is the opposite of a zero-sum game. My sisters and I had relationships with our mom that were so similar, and yet each of us had a very unique relationship. For me, well, I've never been able to analyze my adoration for my mom, or my dad for that matter. My mother understood me totally. We thought alike about so many things, and we actually had fun analyzing and strategizing together. There were times when someone thought my reaction to an issue or problem was based on the fact that I had talked to my mother first, when in fact that wasn't true. We each had come to similar reactions independently, and I have to tell you, nothing flattered me more. I have spent my adult life trying to be a student of my mother's wisdom, but I have absolutely no illusion of ever achieving that. Without compromising attorney-client privilege, I often shared with my mom people issues that clients needed advice on, typically after I gave the advice. I just needed confirmation from her that I had done the right thing, and when I felt I got that, I was in heaven. My mother encouraged my ambitions and dreams. Her enthusiasm propelled me to apply to law school, and they did this for my sisters as well. She and my dad gave us wings and encouraged us to soar. We knew absolutely and unconditionally that their love and support would be there if we ever fell or were wounded. Well, I could go on and on. It's getting late, so I want to be kind to you and respectful. I think there's a lot in here that you can read, and I will let you do that. I do, though, want to take a moment, and I want to talk about some people that I must thank, including David Prober and his family, who is not here, who gave the Chaplik family a lifeline when my mother and David married. It was, for us, laughter and fun and beauty, and we are so grateful to them. I also want to thank Allie and Richard, but I think my mom just did, so I'm going to move on. I want to just note my mother was Alan's first receptionist when he opened his periodontal practice, and he would come home and tell me stories about how he got off schedule during the day because my mother was soothing the nerves of patients in the waiting room, and she'd be sitting down, and by the time she was done talking to them, he was like 20 minutes late. I want to say thank you to my Uncle Aaron. My Uncle Aaron was my mother's dream come true when he was born, and he was the pillar of her strength when she needed it most. He spent his life making sure she was okay, and he was always there for us, not just my mom, and not just Aunt Shirley, but my dad and every one of your nieces and nephews. I marvel at how broad your shoulders are, Uncle. And then I was going to tell the story of how not broad they were when you were in that convertible next to the German Shepherd, but you've already told that story, so I'll go on. Our entire family, this bears repeating, thanks Dr. Terrence Sullivan. His brilliance, devotion, and friendship gave our mother throughout the last many decades of her life an embrace of comfort and care that very few people in the aging process ever know. We are eternally grateful to him and thank him also for being Susie's rock. And in the later years, the caregivers that lived or worked with my mom and were friends of my mom were amazing. I want to thank Mary, Chris, and Reggie, Winnie, Carla, and of course, dearest Liz. They were her friends and protectors, and they added indescribable joy to her life, not only tending to her needs, but they shopped with her, earning literally black belt credentials at Macy's, wrapped over 200 Christmas presents a year, sang, danced, karaoke, and just made life fun. My mom lived life to the fullest. Until COVID, there were no women that saw more theater, ballets, symphonies, movies, and restaurants than they all did together. And we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. especially to Liz, who nursed my mom at the end of life, because there are no words to adequately describe your tenderness, your care, and devotion, and may God bless you, Liz, always. To Steve, her adopted son, thank you for keeping our mom young. You were loved beyond measure. You and Mark made life so much fun for her, and we love you both. To the staff and residents, including Susie and Marvin at 1418 Lakeshore Drive, you treated my mom as royalty. She was really like the queen of the building. And you gave enormous comfort to her daughters, knowing that she was so beloved and protected, and we thank you. And to you here today, thank you. Thank you so much, especially for those who've traveled from great distances. Elynne, Richard, and I cannot complete honoring our mom without speaking about our most amazing and unique sister, Susan. Susie determined when COVID started that her highest and best use was going to be moving in with my mom and making sure she was safe. And this arrangement was to last for some months. And as all of you know, Susie never moved out. You see, she and my mom were roommates in Lincolnwood in 1974 after Daddy and Ivy died. They traveled together then, discovered Canyon Ranch together, shared personality traits that made living together so much fun. They are so similar. They are both the most fun people to be with. It is remarkable that they would become roommates again in 2020, and they have always been girlfriends, every bit as much as mother and daughter. I don't think that anyone anywhere can describe a more selfless commitment than the one our sister Susan made to our mother. And she did so not only with the greatest competence, thanks, of course, in part to Dr. Sullivan and Susie's own intellect, but also with constant tenderness and patience and fun and love. She would never cease to pass my mom without a kiss or a hug or just a tender touch. And as the end of our mom's life approached, she would cradle her, soothe her, and provide the comfort that I tell you honestly was more beautiful than anything I've ever seen in my life. And I've lived with them, I know them, but this was beyond anything I have ever witnessed. The task of caring for my mom in 2020 could be challenging. My mother valued her independence. When one of her daughters would say something to assure her safety, she would often turn to a stranger nearby and said, "I taught her how to use a spoon, and now she's telling me what to do." We'd laugh, but the message was clear. Somehow Susie was able to balance this, and our mother thrived. I'm certain that Susie feels blessed for knowing that there would have been no higher purpose to her life these past 3 years. Elynne, Richard, Allie, and I know that Susie literally added years to Mommy's life. And she gave her safety and happiness. Together with Liz, and before that, Carla, she managed Team Miriam Sorority. They even had t-shirts with the logo. They had nightshirts, they had holiday celebrations, birthday parties, Broadway musicals on television, musical instruments in my mother's study, convertible rides for hot dogs and Dairy Queens, karaoke contests, drives to see Christmas lights, summer concerts at the park, and the list goes on. Susie never stopped planning and doing, and my mom never stopped wanting to go. And I really mean this. When she was lying in bed, fighting to get back to herself as a healthy, vibrant person, she would just say, Susie, let's go. Where could we go? Help me get out of this bed. And Susie would say, Mom, we've done it once, we'll do it again. We weren't lucky this time. They planned trips. How many times did they wake up in the morning and my mom would say, let's go to Florida, let's go to theater. And maybe 100 trips were planned, though most not taken. But the zest and joie de vivre that they had, both of them, was living life to the fullest. Many days and nights at 1418 were either begun or ended with Susie and my mom in bed, talking, sharing their hearts, and telling stories about the past. Susie never ceased to amaze us. She was the most amazing friend and love of my mother's. Susie has lived the selflessness that our mother taught us is so important to one's own happiness. I pray she knows. Susie, listen to me. The endless love and respect and gratitude that Elynne, Richard, Allie, and I feel for you and what you have done for our mother. You are Mommy's daughter in every way. Until the very end, my mom called Susie, Suzala, my angel. And of course, our mom was right. No bond between a mother and daughter could have been more beautiful. Our sister Susan is an angel on earth, just as our mom was. And we bless her, we thank her, and we love her so much. May our mother rest in peace. May she help God in heaven above, as she did every day of her life on earth. May she be greeted and embraced in the arms of Daddy and Ivy, her parents, sister, and entire family. And as Elynne said, it is Ivy's turn to have Mommy now. Amen.
As we come to the conclusion of this service of memory, my role was to offer a summation. But I learned and realized that it had already been done in the book of Proverbs. In the words of Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, and Chazan Mizrahi will chant it in Hebrew, and we're honored that Rabbi Deborah Nesselson will read these words in English. Rabbi Nesselson is a childhood family friend of the family.
אשת חיל מימצא ורחוק מפנינים מכרה בטח בעלה ובעלה ושאלה ללא יחסר גמלתותו ולא רע כל ימי חייה Kappa parsa leoni, viode hashircha lahevion. Oze vehadar elevusha, vatischak leyom acharon, piha patcha vechokma, vetorat chesed aleshona, צופיה הליכות ביתה, ולחם עצלות לא תאכל, קמו פניה וישועה, בלה ויהללה. רבות בנות עשו חיל, ויד עלית על כולנה, שקר החן והבל היופי, אישה יראת אדוני, היא תתהלל, תנו לה מפרי יודיה, והללוה. והשירים מעשיה.
For our Miriam, a woman of valor who can find. Her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and nothing shall he lack. She renders him good and not evil all the days of her life. She opens her hand to the needy and extends her hand to the poor. She is robed in strength and dignity and cheerfully faces whatever may come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She tends to the affairs of her household and eats not the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her. Her husband too, and he praises her. Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Place before her the fruit of her hands. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise.
Modern version of Eshet Chayil is a Yiddish Mama. And so we will hear a rendition of that, a special rendition, and then we will rise for the memorial prayer.
When I was a young girl, I often sang a song for my mother and my grandma Lebedow, my mother's mother. My sisters have convinced me to do it again tonight. And Linda has rewritten some of the words of this song. My Yiddish Mame, I love you more than words can say. My Yiddish Mame, God grant you health and peace, I pray. I want to thank you for the wisdom that you share, and for your beauty and your kindness, oh so rare. My Yiddish Mame, God graced this world when you were born. Your love has no limits, even when your own heart was torn. Oh, I know that I owe what I am today to my dear and beloved, so bold and brave, to my wonderful Yiddish Mama, mine.
Unforgettable, that's what you are.
Unforgettable, though near or far.
Like a song of love that clings to me. How the thought of you does things to me never before has someone been more
unforgettable in every way,
and forevermore. That's how you'll stay.
That's how you'll stay.
That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too.
Who can say for certain? Maybe you're still here. I feel you all around me. Your memory so clear. Deep in the stillness, I can hear you speak. You're still an inspiration. Can it be that you are mine forever, love, and you are watching over me from up above? Fly me up to where you are beyond a distant star. Upon tonight to see you smile, if only for a while to know you're there. A breath away is not far to where you are you gently sleeping here inside my dream? And isn't faith believing all power can't be seen? As my heart holds you just one beat away, I cherish all you gave me every day. 'Cause you are mine forever, love, watching me from up above. And I believe that angels breathe, and that love will live on and never for the memorial prayer.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרוקיו מזהירים. אתני שמות האישה מרים בת עזרא ופגה שהולכה לעולמה. בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. אנא בעל רחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה. ונאמר Amen.
God, you are exalted and full of compassion. We pray that you will take the beloved soul of Miriam Chaplik under the wings of your divine presence. We ask you, God, remember the many worthy and good deeds that this woman performed in the land of the living. May Miriam's soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May she rest bishalom. May she rest in peace. And to that we can all say,
Amen.
May